Hey guys, this is Kelly Robinson, Fear Not. I think we're on day 5. Today we're going to be pulled out of chapter 21 of Genesis, um, roundabouts 16 and 17. So if you want the full story in context, please do click on the link and listen to the rest of it. But basically what we have here is God listening to a child crying and then going to the single mom and saying, "Fear not." God has heard the voice of the lad. The angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, "What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is." So check on the link to get the full story. Fear not. All right, so here we are to talk about the full story out of Genesis 21 and how it could possibly relate with you. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, so here we have Hagar and Ishmael. Ishmael is like a preteen, troubled teen of Abraham, and Ishmael's and Hagar is like a servant of Abraham. Complicated family situations. Aren't all families complicated? Well, this one's complicated too. Isaac had been born to Sarah, just as was promised, and that had caused a bunch of strife in the house. Long story short, here we have Hagar pretty much in the desert, and she's on her last rope, and her son is to the point where, and sometimes single moms can feel like they're left alone. And for any moms out there that feel like they're alone, please listen to this story, because it's a good one. Here in Genesis 21, you'll see that Abraham in verse 14, at the time, it seems like he was doing what was right to try to preserve his family for what he thought was right for God, which was to preserve Isaac as Isaac and his mom Sarah for the line of the promises. So verse 14, whether that's right or wrong, we'll leave that to the different discussion. We're just going to take a look at fear not for the single mom and the troubled teenager. He took bread in the morning and a bottle of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Verse 15, the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. She couldn't stand it to watch her child die in the desert. So verse 16, she went and sat down over against him a good way off, as if it was a bow shot. Now remember that. That's kind of interesting. A bow shot away. So she couldn't quite hear him, for she said, "Let me not see the death of the child." And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice, and she cried. So all she was able to hear was her own cry. Well, God heard more than that. And God, no matter what the situation, he hears children crying. And he's there to say, "Fear not." In this case, the mom didn't, as far as we know, in her cry, didn't reach out to God. But God, it doesn't say that God heard her. Maybe God did. But what it does specifically teach us is that God heard the child weeping. So in verse 17, and God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, "What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad of Ishmael where he is." That is the preteen teen that was troubled, whose mom led him out into the desert, and they sat there apart so that way they could die separately and her heart wouldn't be broken even further. "Arise and lift up the lad. Angel's telling her to not fear and to go get Ishmael and hold him in thine hand. And sometimes when we hold the hand of a child, we are doing God's work at the instruction or help of angels. For I will make him a great nation. What? I thought there was a great nation out of Isaac. Well, why is that? Well, here's what happened. Well, Ishmael later became part of the Arab nation, northern Arab nations, Ishmaelites, and a lot of Arabs point to Ishmael as their forefather. We'll get back to that because the story isn't done here with Hagar, the single mom out in the desert with nothing but an angel saying to go help your son. And God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water, and she went and she filled the bottle with water and gave the lad a drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and he dwelt in the wilderness, and he became an archer. So one bow shot away from the mom, he became an archer. Isn't that interesting? Also, what's interesting is before Hagar knew how God was going to help her, the angel told her to go get the lad. She at that point had no idea how she was going to help him, but she had enough faith by the excitement of given from the angel telling her to fear not. And that's the importance of knowing to fear not. Before she knew about the well of water, she went and she picked up her son and held him by the hand. And then after showing that faith, in verse 19, God opened her eyes and saw a well of water. How incredible. So fear not. A little bolster up for those single moms out there, or troubled families that are really complicated and troubled like Abraham's was. Also, when you're hearing, okay, I'm not supposed to fear, but you don't understand the logistics of why you're not supposed to fear. Here, this angel told her to fear not and to go take care of her son. And then God showed her the water. So listen to that lesson, whatever it is in your life right now. If you're questioning, well, why should I fear not? I don't see how it's all going to work out. Listen, this is how it worked out here. No one even asked God. God heard the child cry. He sent his angel. Then the angel asked the parent to do the right thing. And we need to do the right thing even though we don't know how it's going to get done. Here in Genesis 21, we have learned again to fear not. See you tomorrow.